Uh, More or less similar update as the past couple of updates, working through closeout. I just checked in terms of our remaining closeout submittals, and perhaps Zach can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have 8 remaining in our court to get through. I don't know how many. I think limited ones are remaining to be submitted. So really working to close out some of the remaining PCO or ATPs, as well as making sure that all of the warranty information closeout documents are complete. So that more or less has been what we've been working through for the last several weeks. The only other thing that I can update the committee on, some minor punch list items are coming up with some of the FF&E, just to make sure, that the vendors are getting there if there are loose fasteners or that have become loose, and validating that they're all installed correctly. So those items pop up occasionally from the principal and facilities apprising us. We check with the vendor, they get out their folks out there. So more or less status quo in terms of closeout. And as always, as we are going through these ATPs, I'll be able to speak to if there are any questions on them as they come up.
Excellent. I assume no questions for Justin, so we'll go to the CM. Zach, I assume you're covering it for today?
Yep. Yep, I'll be covering. Good evening, everybody. Similar updates to Justin as of right now. Going to the punch list first, we have less than 20 open items in the field. And in fact, I have one of our subs on site tonight with me here down in Madison. So once they wrap up with their items, we should have less than 10 items still open, just waiting for a few miscellaneous pieces of hardware to come in for a couple of the door punch list items, and then also 1 or 2 plumbing. So balance of materials are going to be in early November. So we'll have the punch list wrapped up at the worst case scenario this November. Commissioning items, we have about a dozen and a half items that are in the project team's court right now, specifically the controls contractor working through with us in Colorado just to resolve the rest of their items. And then outside of that, working through the balance of ATPs. So we do have some change orders that will be coming down the pipeline over the next couple SBC meetings into November, just for some day 2 change work. One of them being the additional planting that took place of the pollinator pathway, where we got that taken care of. And then also just some day 2 change work still happening on site. Specifically on Tuesday the 4th, we have some of our subcontractors coming in to take care of additional items like the receptacles that were approved to be installed in the media center, and then also the 2-inch conduit work for the future PV system. So just really day 2 changes at this point, finalizing the forthcoming change orders, and then wrapping up our subcontractors. Right now there's 8 submittals in the design team's court that need to get closed out, and then we're tracking about another 20 that we're just waiting to receive from our subcontractors, including warranties like for the cell booster, which was a change order. So slowly but surely wrapping up the project and tracking to have everything completed at the latest this November.
Excellent. Any questions for Zach? Otherwise, we'll turn it over to Adam. You're up, Adam.
Good evening, everyone. Items separate from what Justin and Zach mentioned. We did get the updated results from the Ryerson additional sampling. Those came in favorably, so that eliminated some of the allowance risk, if you will, that was in the first round of sampling and cost estimate. So basically what that will allow the project to do is when it, eventually, if it goes out to bid for demolishing Ryerson and doing the abatement, those are items that will have already been tested and can be baked into the contractor's bids rather than an unknown that needs to be solved later. So that reduced the estimated cost by just about 600,000, but a little more for that once you consider markups and that, but call it 600,000.
Yeah, so money well spent, obviously.
So in terms of next steps on Ryerson, that's something that the Graham and myself have been coordinating with the town as to how that would or would not proceed, but that effectively ends what Langen's scope was through this project that's currently been authorized. So I've been working with them on getting some wrap-up invoices, but for all intents and purposes, that'll bring us to a pause point until there's some further direction as to how to proceed. The other item that's kind of the thing that typically just happens on the back end, but it's something that Zach and I will be working on, is another state change order. So these are, after we approve ATPs at these meetings, they get compiled, they go to Peggy for her signature for execution as a formal change order. And then ultimately all these items get submitted to the state for review. We've been doing it throughout the project, so this will be the sixth item that we submit. But it's a process we go through, namely Gilbane and Collier's working through those items to get those submitted. Probably have a few more of those. So it's, again, one of these lovely tasks that, the building's open, it's rocking and rolling, everyone's happy, and then there's, a year's worth of work to do. This is just one of those other years worth of paperwork items to get cleaned up. Ultimately, the project can't financially close out with the state until after all those state change orders are reviewed and approved and finalized. So that's why we try to stay on top of these to get them in the state's ball in court and ultimately allow the town to finish sooner rather than later through the grant process. So with that, the rest of the items are going to be in the procurement log and invoice packet. So happy to answer any other questions.
Hearing none, moving to item number 5, review of potential procurement items. Do you have anything in any new procurement?
So all of them are Gilbane ATPs. So I'll do what we usually do, just run through them one by one. The first item and the second item both pertain to ATPs that were previously approved by this committee under a certain not to exceed amount. And so this is the cleanup after all the work has been done, the tickets have been tracked to codify the amount that was expended. The first of these two was for the removal of the egress doors under ATP 124. So the amount authorized not to exceed was 10,000. Final value with all the backups and the work after all the tracking was 6,658. The second one related is its cousin ATP for relocating that double door further down in the corridor. This was approved at a value of 25,000. And this is ATP 125. Final value came in at just about half that at 12,819.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
ATP 133 was an item that came up as a request from the electrical inspector, or requirement, I should say, for some receptacles within the kitchen. They needed to change the breakers and add some flip covers to those locations. So this was an item for $2,273. Again, this has been on these logs that we've been tracking for some time now, so nothing new with these items. Similarly, not something new, but something that's been tracked. ATP 145 for $3,751. This was a change in the access arm mounts for the exterior wireless access points. Basically, there was some that were procured through the project, but then the items that were compatible with the wireless access points ultimately purchased at the later furniture and AVIT package, those need to be provided instead. So there was some work to take off the old ones and put on the correct ones to make sure that they were weatherproof and aligned with the constructability needed for the installation. ATP 146, $2,450. This was an item that was reviewed for the admin suite. Effectively, some of the lockdown buttons and whatnot needed to shift around to align with how the furniture was going to be used and where the staff were going to be going. So this one was, again, tracked on time and material tickets to align with the work needed to make those changes happen in the admin suite. And then finally, ATP 148. This is the only one that is, I'll say new in the sense that it's come up recently and hasn't been tracked on the logs. This was a request through the principal. Peter, jump in if I'm misspeaking on this one. For additional privacy window film on the private admin offices, the principal, the vice principal, the guidance office, where they have those sidelight glazing in. They wanted to have security components, and I believe that's looked through and been recommended for approval by Dr. Cook as well. I think you was reported. Anything to add to that, Peter? Or does that sum it up?
That's correct.
Okay. So ATP 148 for $1,175. Any questions on any of those? I do.
Looks like
obviously
we
have the
saved
motions.
more than we spent.
We try to keep it within what everyone's expectations are. Under promise, over deliver, and all that. So I got the motions up here for what was just shown.
Seth, did you want to say something?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if now's the appropriate time or maybe after we do these motions, but I did want to discuss a little bit about the overall cost of the project, the budget. There have been some questions that have been raised by the public, and I just want to see where we are with regard to those things. So I don't know if you want me to ask now or wait till after this.
And maybe put it in the remarks. We'll close this up because this money's already been pretty much spoken for. But then we'll I'm sure we can address any concerns that people have. But so Sharon is not. I don't believe Sharon's on the call, so we'll need someone to volunteer to read these motions.
If you want me to, I will, Graham.
Okay, excellent. I appreciate that, Woody.
Sure. Motion to approve ATP 0124 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $6,658 for the door removal at corridor M03. This updated ATP closes out the previous authorization with the estimate value of $10,000.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, Bob, he slipped. George beat you to it. All in favor?
Bob had it.
Aye. All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion to approve ATP 0125 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $12,819 for the door relocation per Bulletin 52. This updated ATP closes out the previous authorization with the estimate value of $25,000.
Do we have a second for that? Welcome, Sharon. Bob's got that one. He's got it. You get in a minute. Okay, excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0133 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $2,273 for electrical flip covers and GFI breakers per electrical inspector direction.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Bob's Bob's on a streak now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0145 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $3,751 for exterior wireless access point revisions.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0146 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $2,450 for admin suite security modifications per RFI 244.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Bob, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 0148 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $1,175 for full privacy window film at admin offices per school request.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Beautiful. Thank you. We're on to the invoice packet. We have just two invoices this time around. Monthly bill from Colliers, as well as pay app 19 from Gilbane, for a total approval of 933,704.83 cents.
Got it. Motion?
Motion to approve invoice packet dated 10/20/2025, including an invoice from Colliers in the amount of $12,576.70 and construction pay requisition 19 from Gilbane in the amount of $921,128.13 for a total approval of $933,704.83.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, moving on to next item, public. Do we have anybody in the public?
No.
Okay, and then remarks, I think, Seth, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. So, I hate to start it this way, but there's been some Facebook back and forth and comments, and then there were some questions posed at, I believe, the most recent finance Board of Finance hearing or meeting this past week. And the questions surround whether or not this project in toto will be coming in under or on budget. My understanding is that it will be under or on budget, that there will be money left over for the committee to determine whether or not to pursue photovoltaic or solar for the roof once we serve out the 1 year of the roof warranty, so that we don't void the warranty before then, that there will be money left over to pursue this project, especially in combination, or at least that's one of the potential uses of the excess funds, especially in combination with some of the federal or state funds that may be actually available up front as grant funding. And then also, if you consider some of those grant funds that may be available in reimbursement. So it's my understanding that even with a potential solar project to occur next year on the roof, that this project, after all reimbursements and grants potentially available for solar, would end up within the original 63 point whatever million dollar budget for this project. And secondly, that the I can't remember if it was 3.5 or 5.3 million that was temporarily moved over from the Polson sub project to this sub project, just so that we could show the state that we had funding sufficient to qualify to continue the project. My understanding is that that was reimbursed back to Polson, and I just wanted to see where those two items were to clear the air for the public. Thank
Okay, no, that's a good question. And I mean, I'll start out, and then Adam and Peter can rein me in if I go off track. So yes, first question, and this was presented at the Board of Selectmen meeting maybe a month ago, that kind of went through this detail, because it is complicated with the ins and outs, and I would suggest people look at that, take a look at that Board of Selectmen meeting, but I'll sort of summarize it here. So yes, first of all, yes, the $3.45 million was returned. It was on paper anyway. So that money's been returned to the Polson project, as is. Secondly, the project will be on or under budget, and there'll be remaining funds available from our contingency and also the contractor's contingency, and that's a pot of money. And there will be additional money received through the IRA program, assuming we get that, and every expectation we will. The complication is the priority and the timing of that. So the demolition of Ryerson was, the solar was not in the referendum call, but the demolition was. So it'll need to be determined by the Board of Selectmen whether this project takes on the demolition of Ryerson, and that money is funded. And as Adam mentioned, we've done our due diligence environmentally, but right now that hasn't even been returned to the town. I don't believe it's still in the, so we can't demolish Ryerson if it's determined to be demolished. But that would probably be our priority to do, because that was in the referendum, and some people think that was it's part of the 99 million, whether it was in the call or not. The perception is that was included in the 99. So in our mind, that's kind of the priority. The secondary is the solar, which in some of our minds, we would definitely want to have the solar, but that comes in second. And that timing of it, that may have to be a separate project by the town, just because of timing. We won't be getting the 3.5, and it wasn't explicitly in our charge. The demolition wasn't in our charge either, but so between the two funding sources, it's going to be pretty close. They may need to be supplemented. Some additional funds may be required due to escalation and various things. But, so we're kind of on a holding pattern to what we do next. But I think the demolition will come first, if that makes sense. And correct me hopefully is that relatively clear, Seth?
It is. Thank you. And I absolutely, I acknowledge that I advocated early on in this committee, in these committee meetings, that we do fund to the extent we can the demolition of Ryerson, only because some folks who voted in referendum felt like that was included, whether in fact it was or not. To kind of make those people feel whole, that would be the way to go. So really the question becomes, how much would be left over after that? And if there is left over after that, if you combine that with federal and state grants, whether upfront grants or reimbursement, we would still be able to do the solar, or at least a good portion of that solar project, which was not initially part of this project, with leftover funds.
Right.
And so the long and the short of it is, it seems to me like it is very fair to state that this project came in within budget. And that's really the concern that I'm hearing from some members of the public. A small group of people. Most people seem thrilled with this project. But I just want to make sure that those people who have legitimate questions get those questions answered. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. And then the reimbursement, because the tax credits come back, they wouldn't come back to our project. They would come back to the town directly. So, you'd be mixing money if we put it in this project. And it was never part of the solar was never part of the project. And that could still be procured during a power purchase agreement if we didn't buy the system with our own capital. It makes perfect sense to buy it rather than pay finance terms to own it. But that it would always be a scenario we could still, and it wouldn't cost the town anything.
I would,
Thank you.
Peter, did I get that right? Is that reasonably close to?
Yes, that is what was discussed.
Thank you.
I was going to, the only thing I was going to add was, I think you've kind of, throughout the discussion, kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of interpretations of what's the project scope and what's the budget and what's the funding, because the project within the 61.15 million allocated to the project at the beginning, there will be leftover funds, and exactly to the point, there's going to be significant seven-figure funds anticipated from the tax credit. So no, that's not part of the original 61.15, but also the cost, there was a cost premium to go geothermal that generated that 61.15. So it gets into a bit of a discussion on the eye of the beholder of what was the scope and what are we considering budget. I think from the project team's perspective, if you're just going down to brass tacks of we want a new school building, and is that within 61.15? The answer is a resounding yes. We have a new building, it's up, it's running right now, and there's money left over. Therefore, it's within budget. Now, these are good problems to have of, can we get another whole solar panel system? Yeah, so that is, it can be confusing, and it sounds when you start going down the path that it's picking apart budgets and costs, but ultimately it does get a little complicated upon how people are viewing budget versus cost versus scope.
And I think it's also important to point out that whether it's done as part of this project and directed back to the SBC, this committee, or whether it's done using other public funds, adding solar to the roof at Neck River School, which again would be a largely grant funded project, as I understand it, would also save an annual basis of probably in the area of or over $200,000 a year, by making the building net zero and not having to pay for electricity and gas and all of that. So I think that's also worthy of discussion. Whether again, whether that goes through this committee or not, I think the public deserves to know what impact that will have on the overall energy profile of the school and the district and its budgets going forward. Thank you.
Hey, Graham and Adam and Seth, this is Nick. Not to add another wrinkle to this, albeit a positive one, is that, well, it doesn't necessarily affect Ryerson or the solar. The building committee, through Collier's work with the state, was able to secure an additional 10% reimbursement for the project that was not anticipated at the time of referendum. So just wanted to add that as well.
Yes, Nick, thank you.
And then also from Gilbay too, just talking about this project and savings from contingency, trade allowances, and owner allowances too that were baked to our GMP. We're looking at most likely over $1 million just from the allowances and contingency, not including any other construction site services that we give back ultimately at the end of the project when we reconcile everything. So just wanted to share that as well, that the 2/3 of contingency plus a lot of the allowances will be turned back over to the town.
Thank you. And then the only other thing is that it was also raised publicly by the same folks who also deserve an answer to this. There was a question as to the reimbursement from the state for our school construction project, and what that will amount to. The fact is, we don't fully know yet, because they have a process they go through. It unfortunately may take a couple of years before we're reimbursed. But the fact is, you can't do a straight calculation. It was never presented as we're going to get exactly X amount. It was always qualified by the understanding that the state has a formula that they apply. They look at, they make interpretations as to what should be reimbursed, what's not reimbursed. For example, what we paid in overall cost included such things to outside vendors like UI to run electric to, an electrical main to the building, to the water company to run water service to the building. Those are not reimbursable, but they were on our project budget. So those are the types of things that make the calculation hard to pre-configure or to predetermine from a perspective of trying to tell our taxpayers exactly how much we're going to get. But suffice to say, we were eligible for that additional 10%, which could have been as much as $6 million, and probably will be somewhere close to that, on top of the initial state reimbursement amount. And so I think it's important for the public and taxpayers to know that that will be forthcoming, that it's not a number that we can be precise with up front, but it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, 15, 16 million, somewhere up in there, most likely.
Yeah, Seth, yeah, that's exactly right in terms of the overall process. And the final paycheck will be years from now. But we have been submitting along the way. Each time we're eligible to submit another reimbursement request, work with town finance, and we do so. So yes, you get the money released along the way. There have been millions released. There will be millions more, and you don't know what the final answer is until you go through that final audit and adjustment process with the state. So,
Adam, may I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I understand all this because I've been with the committee for the whole time, but I wonder whether we could simplify it, if I'm even remotely correct, to say that the amount of bonding that the town approved will not exceed that amount. And therefore, there's all these unknowns, but the net result is that what the taxpayers expected to pay for this school will not be exceeded and may be reduced.
Without me being the finance director, I think that's a wholly fair statement to to say from my
But
understanding.
it's so
Yeah.
simple. It's
Right.
really, all this other stuff is interesting, but the net is what we told you we would spend on bonding for this school will not be exceeded and may be less than.
It will be significantly less than.
But shouldn't we
Yeah,
shouldn't we phrase it that way, Graham?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think so. I mean, I've heard, I know I've heard Peggy say that innumerable times in public, because of the extra reimbursement. That's kind of buried the story that we got that extra reimbursement. That's a huge, huge win for the
Yeah.
town. I mean, it's
Seth
it's millions of dollars we won't have to borrow. Plus, as you mentioned, plus the tax credit money we're probably getting back almost certainly. So I mean, that's like it's almost $10 million less than we thought we might have to have paid for the school.
yeah.
But
Seth,
some people
will that
don't
be helpful?
want to, between you, I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
some people don't want to acknowledge that was, over and above what was in the referendum.
What do you think, Seth?
I'm standing on what I already asked. I wanted to ask the questions and get the answers and have it articulated by people smarter than me on this committee, so that this is preserved for posterity and folks can refer to it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you can look at with the 6 or 7 people that ever actually check in on this, watch the recording. But yes, that is documented once and for all. So yeah. And the demolition, until the town resolves we can't demolish Ryerson until the final disposition is, resolved with Ryerson. I believe there's, committees that are also looking at possible reuses or things like that. So that's some of that's outside our control, and the timing is unknown of that. So any other remarks before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Graham, I'd just like to thank Rob Marquis and his crew at DPW helping us out dig around Ryerson, because that saved us a few $1,000s to get those test results out. They did a great job.
Excellent. And like I said before on the call, appreciate your guys helping out watering. I mean, some people help dig the plants and then contractor, but you guys have been doing a great job watering them, keeping them alive. Because my greatest fear, when I had all $10,000 worth of pollinator plants growing and they were going to get burnt out. So I really appreciate you guys. I was down there this weekend. They look great. You guys are doing a great job keeping that stuff alive. And if anybody hasn't got a chance to go back there, it's a very impressive pollinator garden. So one of the more impressive ones I've ever seen. So again, thanks for you guys doing that. Any final remarks? Make a motion to would someone like to make a motion to adjourn? Sharon, can you?
Sure, I'll make that motion. I
Okay.
got here just in the nick of time.
I'm going to do the honor
I'll
for the
second.
final. All in favor, adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
in
you,
the
everyone.
new year, we'll probably continue meeting for another year or so, but we may cut back to once a month, after the new year, depending on how things are going. But we'll play that by ear. We got to set a calendar. January, we have to set a new calendar for the year. So maybe once